Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's presentation for the xLights GEMS series. Tonight's presentation is on pixel forest, piece stakes, whatever you want to call them. And there are different configurations and sequencings with Mark Butcher from Vivid Sequences. With that, I will turn it over to you, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. And yeah, we call them P stakes, pixel forest, just like anything or a lot of things at xLights, there's many ways to do it and get the same results. So I'll show you a few that I know of. I'm sure there's additional ways to do it. And we'll take it as it goes. But the three main ones, and I will show you how to build them. There's this one, which this is uses a cube model. You can see it, and it just makes it lays out the stakes in a perfect cube. Um, this method we create each line individually. It allows you to offset your stakes so the rows aren't right one behind the other like they are in the cube model. And the third way is just random. And actually, I think this is the way when when David first started this. That's what he ended up using, but some of these other things were not available to him at the time either. Um, so these are the three we're going to cover how to set them up and some sequencing differences between them. And so I got those set up for ease, but I'll show you how we build it. So if we want to build a cube model, it's this guy right here. You click it, then we'll just drag this in. And if you click the center, you'll see these handles change. And this one, the little pluses allows you to scale it. So we'll scale this out a little bit so we can see it. And then over here is where you would pick out, the size of your forest. If you want to make it, 10 wide. Now we've got 10 wide. Let's make it 6 deep. So now we got 10 by 6. And then if we want to change the height is like the number of pixels you have on each stake. So if we change that to 7, we get 7. And then we can scale this up and down a little bit. And that's how easy it is to create your cube model. We'll talk about some of these other settings in a minute. And then if you had to move it around your layout, you could just click here to get the handles, and this would allow you to move it left, right, and up and down. Um, so it's easiest to set this up in 3D. You do not have to have your whole layout in 3D to use a cube model. You can, in my own personal layout, everything is pretty much set. The house is all flat 2D, and then I just do this. The pixel forest is out in 3D. So that's doing that one, and that's the easy one to do. So we'll delete we'll delete him. Now, the next one, if you wanted to build it so you can have this offset, and I'm going to actually switch to 2D for this because it's easier to start this way. We're going to start weirdly enough with the candy cane model, and we're just going to drag out some candy canes. And let's say we want our forest to be 8 stakes across, so we're going to make 8 candy canes. And let's say we want our stakes to be seven nodes high. So we'll change this to 7. Okay. Then what we want to do is click this button right here by sticks, and that'll turn them into actually individual sticks. And then if you need to scale the height, right here, this works right here, this height, you can change this to like say let's see, 0.5. That looks pretty good. So actually I'm going to switch back to 3D now because it'll be a little bit easier to see to do this part. So same thing, we can move this around. So we've got our first row created. So if we want to create the next one, I'm just going to hit Control C on the keyboard while it's highlighted. I'm going to hit Control V, and that'll paste it. And I'm just going to move this one back a little bit. I'm going to hit Control V again, and I'll just move it back a little more. And you would just make as many of these as how deep you wanted your forest to be. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's make it 7 deep. Okay. But now we gotta get this all lined up and organized. So the easiest way to do that, you're gonna come over here on the left, and I'm just gonna click the first one and shift click the last one. That highlights them all. Then I'm gonna go to right click over here. I'm gonna align. And the bottoms should have been aligned by the way we did it, but I'm gonna do it just to be safe. And that'll make sure they're all at the same elevation. I'm gonna do right click again. I'm gonna align. I'm just gonna align them all to the left. And then if you look now, right, it's almost a cube model, but our spacing from front to back isn't uniform. We can fix that by going to right click, distribute. We want to distribute depth. And what that will do is evenly space it from the frontmost prop to the rearmost of that group. So now essentially we have created a cube model, right? It looks exactly like the cube model. It's just a little bit different. Now, if we want to offset them, I'm just going to pick this one and we'll just drag it to the right a little bit till it looks good about in the middle. Now let's go maybe a little bit more. So now I know that's 2. So I'm going to hit 2, 4, and 6. I'm going to right click, align the left edge. And so now we got most of our way towards the offset, pixel forest, we'll call it. So we did that one with candy canes. You can also do it with um, the polyline in a similar way. If I drag this across once, and what I want to do is come in here to a drop pattern, and I make my drop pattern, make your drop pattern equal to the number of lights or the height of your lights. So we've been using 7, so I'm gonna do -7, and I only do -7 because that makes them go up. Um, and then you could, but it's gonna follow the same process that we basically the same process that you did with the candy canes. You create this and then you just copy it and offset. I think the candy cane's a little quicker to deal with, but this you would get the same effect. I'm not going to go through the whole process of building it, but this is another way you can do it with a polyline. So we'll get rid of these guys. Get rid of these guys. And then the last way, the random one, it's just exactly what you think. You're going to create a single stake, use a single line. You're going to get in here. Oh, let me reset my. Let me get out of 3D for a second. This one's a little bit easier to do in 2D. Get rid of him. So you come in here, you'd make your line, except now our nodes per string, we're just going to set it to the number of nodes in our stake. And I'll switch back to 3D. And then it would be the same process, right? You're just going to go Control C, Control V, and then you can copy and move these around and place as many as you need, as many as you want to make your forest. It's just wash, rinse, repeat. So that covers the three main ways that I've seen of the way to create them. I'm sure there's more, but we can get into a little bit of now the cube model. There's a bunch of settings here, and this trips up people on trying to figure out what's the right setting. So I'm going to show you an easy way to dial that in. We're going to come over to the sequencer. So here's my, let me turn off this even for now. I'm going to zoom in so we can see this. So right now I just put a blue on all the stakes so we can see all the stakes lit up. Now down here on node 1 of strand 1, I've got I've got a white effect, and you can see it lit up. And I'm actually going to go back to the layout. So right now I have my starting position at front, bottom, left, and that's why you see this. You might be able to see it there. That pixel is colored in that cyan blue, so that indicates where it is, and that matches here. Once we click here, that lights up. So if I want to see where xLights thinks my second light is right now, I'm just going to hit the down, select this effect in the center. I'm going to hit the down arrow, and you can see it moves, but it moves back. It's going, and then it jumps up and then comes back forward. Well, that's not how we have our stakes wired. So we know something's wrong there. So let's go back and fix that. Um, so this is in this direction. So this said it's going horizontal from front to back. So it's going horizontal from front to back and then working its way back and forth. So if we change this to vertical from front to back, now we come one, two. So now we go up, right? And that's our first stake, how we have it wired. But now you look, it came to the top of the next one, which again is probably not how we want it to be, right? Most cases we always are making our connection at the bottom. All right, go back to the layout. So that's on the strand style. So this says zigzag. So what it's doing is going up one, it's zigging up one, zagging down the other, up, down. So we want to set this to no zigzag. Now this will jump one, oh, excuse me. So now we go up and jumps to the bottom. And this is the way a lot of people do run them this way. The other way a lot of people will do it is they will go into the layout and they will use, instead of no zigzag, alternate pixel. And what this one gives us, I'm going to try to zoom in here so you can see. Right, there's node one. Sorry, I wasn't clicked on it right. So there's node one. Node two, it actually skips this one. So it skips every other one on the way up and then fills them in on the way down and then jumps to the next one, goes up every other one, so on and so forth. So that's another common way people do it. That way they're both the wire comes in and out near the bottom of the stake. But that depends on how much if you have enough gap and how tight you're running your pixels, if you can run alternate node. So just for clear sake, I'm gonna go back to no zigzag. And right now we've shown them running front to back, but if you wanted to run them across, you could just do vertical left to right, and then you could see it would start here and work its way. It's going to work its way across back. So it's to work its way all the way over here. Then it's going to jump to here and work back and forth and all the way around. So this is a pretty handy way to just make sure you get it dialed in and you can, make sure you've got it built and working the way you want before you go push a bunch of stuff into the ground. And realize you put it in some way that it won't work. That's my best recommendation. Um, so these ones, this is a little bit in because we created our stakes going left and right. We're sort of limited. We have to run our strings this way. Um, so the only thing we really need to change for this one is, this first one, starting location is the green square, so it's starting here at the bottom left. And if we're going to chain this together, I mean, if we're going to run each string off its own port, we can leave it just like this, run everything off the left side. But let's say you wanted to, come down here and have this loop back around. Then you'd want to take your stake 2 and just change the starting location from the green square to the blue square. So now when you chain them, they'll work themselves back this way. And then you can chain here, and then you would, same thing, you would reverse this one here to be blue square. And then come around here, and same thing, you'd reverse the last one. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And then with the randoms, like I said, it doesn't, you're just going to connect them up in order from stake 1, 2, 3, 4. So however you want to lay it out, you're just going to connect them in order. There's not really any other setup to do there. But for, because I don't have these assigned on a controller, I'm just going to set these all back to the green square and pretend we're running them off each off a single port. But I wanted to show you if you're going to, just so this way the rendering examples will work out correctly. All right, so we will move on to
There's a question in chat about is there an advantage or disadvantage to each type?
um yes, or I say it depends on each person's opinion. I like the cube model. I think one, it gives you additional render styles. Um, Now, a lot of people like this offset because they think the stakes are being blocked, from one for the other. But what I've told people is that's only true if you're like if we're looking at 3D. That's only true if you're like lined like straight up like this, right? In reality, not everybody is right dead center of your display. If somebody is slightly off your display, you can see now, this these start to become unblocked. So it all depends on their viewing angle. And you look, if you get on this on the next one here where it's lined up or they're offset, again, it depends on where you're viewed from. You could get in, your viewer could be in an area where they're being blocked. And yeah, remember these take up, these aren't just a point prop. They usually cover a pretty wide area. So I personally think the additional render styles that are built into the cube model is an advantage over doing it this way. And I think the perceived block, uh, the perceived view blocking that this gets isn't really an issue in my mind. The random one can look really neat, and I know when David his video on it a number of years ago, he would space some. He was able to use less stakes but cover more area because as they got farther away from you, he could space them farther apart, but it would give you the same perceived density, I guess. So like like maybe from row 1 to row 2 was a foot apart, and then they could keep getting a little bit deeper, but as you viewed it, it all looked the same. So he was able to do more with less. So that would be, I guess, one advantage of this sort of random layout. Um, some people like it, so I guess those are my opinions on it. I can't in my feelings, it's and everybody's got one, so take it for what it's worth. Hopefully that answered the question. But some of these render styles will become a little more apparent here because I want to jump into the sequencer now. So I'm going to delete this, delete this. All right, so see if I can make this. You can pull this down a little more. There, that should work. So we got cube model, offset stakes, and random. And let me just turn this on so I've got some. So I'm just going to drop an effect on the cube model. So in this case, I'm just using, let's see if I can, Actually, I don't need layer blending. That'll be helpful to turn this off. So this is just using a single strand effect. It's, I've got 2 cycles, chase size, and it's going from left to right. And you notice I'm set to per preview as my render style, and it slides right across here. So um, now if I drop this same effect and we put it on the canes, okay, in this case, it matches up perfect. We don't have to change anything, right? It's duplicating out the per preview render mode, treats both these models the same. In fact, if you look, it'll do the random one the same. So, so in this case, it doesn't, the how it renders is independent of the model. So this, we can get this left to right movement is the same regardless of, if someone's sequenced on this type and you've got a cube model or vice versa. But there will be some differences that come up. Right, so here is another one. And now this one, and maybe I might take a step back in this one, but so this one we got on a cube model, we got it going from the back to the front. And the render style is overlaid X. I'm actually going to pump into here. So these render styles are they're built in to the inbuilt props, and some of them are only available with certain props. So as you can see here, we've got this overlaid X, overlaid Y, overlaid Z, this unique, and these 3 unique ones. Where if I come down to this model, I gotta click on it. You can see we don't have any of those overlaid X, Y, and Z models. So because those are custom or built in for the cube model. So if you had a sequencer who did something, and using this to get it to sweep from the front to the back, and you drop it on here, now it's going to switch automatically because it doesn't, you know, the canes does not have that overlaid X render style. It it's going to go to default and it starts to do that. So if we were to switch this is where it gets, this is where it's helpful to have this little file here, and I'll probably actually make it available to Daryl to attach to the video because you can use it to figure out how to get from one to the other. Sometimes a lot of it is trial and error. I don't. So if I change it to vertical stack and I rotate this, um, okay, now we get the same effect, right? So we are able to duplicate it. And let me see, just going to, which should give us pretty much the same result on the random, right? So we'll go to our third one. All right, so now here we're still just using single line. Right, our render style is default. Now this time we just rotated it 90 degrees, and that made it. Now it's going to bounce up from the bottom to the top. If we were to change this to the other direction, it's going to go from the top down. And if we go none, it's going to give us, a sweep from the front. But let's go back to what we had. Oh, we had this one, right? So if we want to duplicate that one, we copy it down. Let's just see if this is another one where the render style actually copies well and works all the way across. Right, we don't have to change anything. It's not a complicated one. So, all right, so now we've got a bars effect on here that's going default render style, rendering up the stake. So you can see it's sliding these bars up. And I believe this one should render properly across all of them with no changes. All right, but if I want to do a slight change and get it to go across my cube model, all right, so we changed the direction to left and we were back on per preview. Okay, again, this is another one that translates nice and comes across um, on all three. Let me. So no real change required there. I think this one is one where we're going to have some. So here, in order to get the go front to back for the cube, I had to go to this overlaid X render style. Um, and obviously, if I come down here, we know we don't have overlaid X. We're not going to get that. Um, so this is another one we're going to have to change it. And I'm using my little cheat sheet over on the side that you can't see, but we went with vertical per model and rotate it counterclockwise 90 degrees. So we are able to get it, but it's a little, like I said, you've got to play around with these. And I have to, it's a trial and error process. I can't look at this effect and say, this is what I need to do. I haven't gotten that good with it yet. So if you're struggling a little bit and having to you know, work through iterations, don't feel bad. It's not intuitive, at least to me, on how to get there. So now if I take this one, if I try it down here with the random, I think we get it. It comes out pretty good. You use it the same way, but if you look a little bit differently, you see it's following these stakes around, right? It's not really moving up. Um, and in order to get this one to work, we've actually got to go back to the layout. We got to create a preview or a view to render off of it that will allow us to make this one work. Um, so we're going to come in here and we're going to do a couple of these. So first I want to rotate in 3D. So I'm looking straight down and I'm going to do it for both models. Um, and we just try and get it so we're looking straight down over the center of our forest. This one. Once we get that set up, we want to right click. We want to save current viewpoint. And I'm going to call this offset top, just so we know that's our offset forest from the top view. I'm just going to slide over. I'm going to create another one. Save current viewpoint. We're going to call this um, random top view. And as long as we're here, so we don't have to do another one, for the randoms, I'm going to create one from the side. We'll call this random side. All right. So now if we're back here, we're going to change our render style on this random layout to per preview. And when we change it to per preview, now we can select what camera we want to use. It defaults to the 2D camera, which is a lot of times like when you do per preview and default, it's the same because it's default to this camera. But we're going to change this to be the side view and get rid of our transformation. And one more, I got to change the direction to up, I believe. Or oh, I lost my view. So the colors don't line up exactly the same, but it yeah, now it should be. So it's closer. This has been a tricky one to try and get to work in the random ones. Let's just see if we go to if I go top view and switch it to up. Yeah, that one looks a little bit better. It's not perfect because it's moving up the stakes. In some cases, you may not be able to exactly duplicate an effect. So that's what I'm trying to show here. We can get close. So now let's just go this little pinwheel effect here. So I've just done the pinwheel and I've done it overlaid Y. So now it's basically overlaid Y basically it treats the cube model almost like a matrix, like but you're looking straight down from the top. So when if you're in a view like this, you'd see it more like this. But I'm going to give us a little tilt so we can see what's going on. So obviously, if I put this effect on this model, we're getting something completely different, right? It doesn't look anything like this. But if you remember, if we go per preview and we made that top view, so I just changed my camera to offset top, right? Now we're getting the same thing. Now the shapes are a little different in the models, which is why it's not going to render identical, but it's doing the same thing. And we get the same thing from the random layout. I'm just going to paste this one here. All right, same thing. This doesn't look right, but if we switch to our per preview and select our random top view, so we're able to use that effect and get it to render out for us as we would like. Same thing with like, now we're going to use a shockwave effect. Okay, we just set it to explode out on our cube model. And if we put it on here, our offset, we get something, and I should say I've got this overlaid Y. So again, I'm treating it sort of like the matrix, right? So this one, it's starting in the middle and pushing out. And if I was right, and we're on default, and if this was on default, it would do this almost the same thing, just rotate it off 90 degrees. But let's go back to overlaid Y. And we can get this same where it explodes out from the center by going back to our per preview and rendering it from the top view. Now it's going to be a little bit different. It's not perfect, but it gets you closer. And same thing on the random, right? If we go to preview and pick our random top, we're going to get a little bit better. And if you played with these numbers a little bit, you could probably get it to look a little bit. This one looks a little bit better because it's also more of the depth, the depth and the width are closer than these two. Now the effect everybody likes to use on their stakes is this cool wave effect, right? So we get this nice bouncing up and down. In this case, I've used the overlaid Z. Um, so for this one, that gets us this. And if we were to put this on this model, it's close, right? So I would say that one probably doesn't require change. It gets us close enough to what was going on. And if we go to the random one, yeah, I think that looks you know, similar and close enough. Um, do another wave effect. Now in this one, I've put it on the default render style, and this gives us this, so now it's rendering here like that, which is a little bit, a little bit different effect than you get here, right? This one is sort of each column is bouncing up and down, where here we're getting a little bit of the row bouncing and up and down, front to back and left to right at the same time. So this one, it isn't quite doing it. It's close. This one I found if I went to a horizontal stack, we could actually get it to look, pretty much identical to what's going on in there. And the same thing if we copy this down to the random one. Um, we can't really use horizontal stack and on the random. I mean, we can, but it's not going to because they're not. Each thing is it treats this whole row as a stack. Um, Obviously, since these are all individuals, it you can pick it, but it doesn't do anything. So in this one, we probably need to live with the default one. So that covers a few different sequencing options. Let me just see how we're doing on time. We're pretty good. All right. Any questions in chat, Andy?
Alex was wondering what a waving flag.
Oh, how to make one?
Yeah, guess you just change up some color on what you have, I guess.
Yeah, I think you would you'd have to get, probably the simplest way to do it would be to take like, yeah, I would take this effect here that we have on any of these models and just put a flag. I mean, it's not going to be very dense. You could put a flag image on top of it with a brightness blend mode, and that would sort of do it. Or you could try and, color in some things. Yeah, it'd be tricky. It could be done, but it would take some time. We can go into a little bit into some submodeling, because sometimes people like to either um, create, odd and even columns and rows. And so with the cube model, if we go into there, let me reset. So let's see, we're 8 by 7, right? So we got 56 stakes in this cube. So I'm going to come in here, and so there's a really easy way to create your stake submodels. We're going to go down to this action button. We're going to hit generate slices, and we are going to do nodes. And if you remember our stakes, I think they're 7 high. We're going to find out here together. And then up here it asks for your base name. So what you want to do is you want to type in, excuse me, I'm going to type stake, and I'm going -1 because this is going to be my first stake, and then it's going to auto increment off of that. And you want to make sure you do -1 for your first one. If you just do stake, then you're going to get stake -1 is actually going to be your second stake. And I hit OK. And oh, I did that wrong. Let me delete those. Action generate slices, nodes. This should be the number of stakes you have, not the number of nodes per stake. So I've got 56 there. So now you can see, now I've just created stakes 1 through 56 that fast. And if we come back to our sequencer, we just put an on effect on here, make this blue. You can see now when I double click this, I've actually got stakes 1. We'll make him white just so we can see him. Now we've got each individual stake submodeled. So now you could go ahead and you could create, you could create groups on your with this where you did all your even rows, odd rows, even columns, odd columns. You would do something similar for if we look under the canes, right? When I expand that out, each each strand in this case, so strand 1 is a stake, right? So this is strand 1, all right, is stake 1, and you get down here, strand 2 is stake 2. So you could, the same way, you could group these up. You don't have to really create individual stake submodels because they're sort of already available here for you. And then a random, you really wouldn't have columns. You would just do yeah, you probably wouldn't be something you could do there, but again, you could group them up however you wanted. If you wanted to, create groups of, corners and run different effects or something on, different parts, that's certainly possible.
Mark, did you cover shockwave from above?
I did.
Okay.
It's this one right here. And we set it to, let me close this up. And then we created it. Yeah, we did, yeah, with
Yep.
the preview from the top side. And actually, I'll send this file to you, Daryl, if you want to somehow put a link to it on the video from the gems. That way people can,
Sure.
I think it's, that way they don't have to go ahead and create the models. It's a good way to try and troubleshoot, like, all right, I could get this with the cube, and how do I want to get it on mine? And it's, or vice versa. It's just, there's no, I wish I wish I could give you a little more guidance, but
Yeah.
it's trial. It's really trial and error.
And it's a good way to see. I'm sorry to put it on you, Mark, but
Yeah.
it's a good way to see because vendors use different models in their layouts,
Yep.
and it's going to react differently when you import it into your layout.
Yeah. You could just take the vendor's model, vendors, if they're on the cube, you could import it into here, and then you could play around with it, copy effects down to the other ones and see how can I get it to work on mine
Hmm.
or not, and then once you get it working in here, import it back to your sequence. Um, but it's yeah, there's no magic bullet and I'm not smart enough to be able to look at it and say, oh, this is exactly what you have to do. It's a matter of playing around with the render styles and the transformations. And, in some cases, you know, the, uh, the offset from the top, that's going to be mostly, you're going to need that on the cube effect, when you see overlaid Y, that's, if anything's overlaid Y, I guess that would be almost an absolute. You're going to need a top camera view if you have something else and render it from the per preview on that. Same thing as like this. Um, we're overlaid Y here, so we need a top camera view. Um, but like I said, you can, here's if we just play around with it, right? So now let's just concentrate on the cube model. I can change overlaid Y, get to come that way. Overlaid Z, all right? Those two keep the same. This this works. you can see it sort of comes across, but it's also filling from the front and the back, which you can get some pretty neat effects. And this is one of the reasons why I like the cube model, because these are just they're just here. So and you have access to them. And even this can create something. If we go to the say the overlaid X mode, you can see you're getting this. It's a pinwheel, but it's basically around it sideways. But from a a view of a viewer, you can get some pretty. And this is doing it. So some of these are would be very difficult to achieve on this effect would be. I don't even know if I could come up with a comparable effect that would work on one of these other two models. But yeah, between sometimes the rotations do nothing at all. It all depends on what you get. If you can, a lot of it depends. You can get. So yeah, that's it. I mean, a lot of it is playing with these settings and you stumble across something that looks cool and then you use it. Any more questions? All right, everybody is an expert in 45 minutes on piece steaks. All right, that's all I got, Andy.
As I'm muted.
No.
No questions on steaks? Yep, thanks. I thought I was unmuted still.
All right.
But no, we didn't. Thank you, Mark.
Well, Pat said unmute us, so there's a.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Oh,
anybody's.
Pat?
I'll hang
Oh,
out for a second.
hang on, hold on.
I missed it all. Start over from the beginning? No.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Just
no,
real
I-
quick, does anybody have experience putting them on a roof? And then if you did put them on a roof, what drawbacks or problems or other than them maybe blowing off a roof? But I mean, it could be a cool effect on a roof, but I just don't know if anybody has done it.
Doesn't
yeah, there's a few have it. Doesn't
I thought does Ron have his
Ron
on?
does
I
it.
think Nick? Oh, no,
Ron
Nick
does
has
it.
Yeah, well, Ron Howard has it. Yeah.
Extreme sequences.
Yeah, but is it really on his roof or is he just sequencing on his roof and selling it?
I believe it's on his roof. I believe he actually put it on his roof.
Yeah, well, he's in California.
He does.
Yeah,
The grade
he
that
has
is from the GE grade that
yeah,
it's
the
like all
GE
Cora
grid
made,
thing, which is
Okay.
interlocking grid.
it looks
Okay,
like a
but-
nightmare. Yeah.
But he's also in California. I'm in a snow region.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
two.
there was a
Well,
there
that would
was a
look
guy
cool
that
in
had
snow.
a PVC frame done. He made all angled and made it a big frame that was on his roof. That looked pretty cool up there.
Do you know who it was? I'm sorry.
I do not know who
Okay.
it was. Somebody in the group.
Someone in chat said Jim Winder put 400 of them on a roof, so maybe that was the person who did the frame. I don't know. So
Okay. No, I'm just curious.
yeah, I think it.
Another project that I'll never get to, but it's still nice to know.
That would be a cool.
Maybe.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I did the frame on the ground with them.
If nobody's else has questions, can you just throw a picture up real quick if you got it?
I'm going to stop share.
Yeah,
So
stop share and I'll stop. We want to keep recording or no?
yeah, now this is the bonus content you'd get when you attend in person.
If you hang long enough,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, I'll stop it there. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.